up, Taiwan? I'm Yvonne Yang with news from here in Taiwan and around the world. Taiwan is expanding its investigation into people suspected of holding both Taiwanese and Chinese ID cards. The campaign comes as Taipei ramps up efforts to stop Beijing's attempts to, quote, integrate Taiwan with China. Reese Ayers has more.
Entertainers and influencers will join military personnel, public servants and educators on a list of professions whose identities will be scrutinized by the Taiwanese government. Taiwan is looking for people who hold both Chinese and Taiwanese identity documents, and for those caught holding both, they'll have their Taiwanese ID revoked. This latest announcement regarding entertainers comes from Taiwan's Mainland Affairs Council, which handles relations with China, after several Taiwanese influencers and artists were exposed for posting pro-unification messages on social media. And a Chinese influencer living in Taiwan had her residency revoked for the same reason. The suspicion is that some of these artists may have been recruited or otherwise influenced by the Chinese Communist Party in attempts to, as President Lai put it in a press conference last week, confuse Taiwan's national identity. And part of that recruitment process could involve coaxing people with wide spheres of influence to apply for Chinese IDs. Taiwan says it's all a part of a wider campaign by China to influence and infiltrate Taiwan through a range of means, bringing Beijing closer to its ultimate goal of taking control of Taiwan. The practice of revoking Taiwanese IDs isn't a new one. In an interview with the Liberty Times, Mainland Affairs Council Chairman Chiu Chui-zheng said that almost 700 people had had their Taiwanese identities revoked in the last decade after being discovered holding Chinese ID documents in accordance with the Cross-Strait Relations Act. But while not new, the scope of this most recent campaign does seem larger and more targeted, and will also investigate whether any of these artists have engaged with political propositions from the Chinese government, also a potential violation of the law. And while the first round of investigations will target entertainers, educators, the military and public servants, Cho has said that private and public enterprises will face investigation next, furthering the scope of this coordinated attempt by the Taiwanese government to, as it says, protect its sovereignty. Andy Xue, Howard Zhang and Reese Ayers in Taipei for TaiwanPlus.
Taiwan's military is on high alert after Chinese forces passed close to the country. These maneuvers come in apparent response to new drills announced by Taipei, adding a bit of unwelcome realism to exercises meant to test the country's defense. Jaime Okan reports.
Taiwan's Navy stares down a Chinese destroyer operating around Taiwan. It was one of 9 Chinese ships patrolling the region's waters, just hours after Taiwan started military drills to test its capabilities on Monday. China's Navy regularly operates in these waters, but Taiwan's defense minister says that this time it was different.
联合战备举行，历来大概就是1个礼拜差不多就会举行一次嘛。昨天比较特殊，只是说在上午举行一次的一次之后呢，不过他的军舰其实抵近20海里没有离开，然后之后下午他们的这个空军有在进来这样。
Taiwan's defense ministry says a total of 59 Chinese military aircraft and drones were spotted operating around the country between Monday and Tuesday. 43 of the aircraft flew closer and breached the country's Air Defense Identification Zone, or ADIZ. Taiwan's military deployed its own aircraft in response and released rare images of Chinese drones around the country. The spike in military activity on both sides is prompting debate between Taiwan's 2 biggest political parties as tensions with China continue to boil.
两岸需要坐下来谈，那怎么样能够谈？这个我觉得考验赖清的政府。
3、4月本来就是中国军演的一个高峰就跟他们8、9月喜欢做这些事情一样中国呢，永远都一定会找一个理由，然后说这是他要做军演的目的。
Taiwan has been trying to boost its defensive capabilities and make sure that its armed forces are ready to react if one of these incursions turns into an actual attack. But with more and more Chinese ships and aircraft spotted around the country, some analysts say that Taiwan may need to reconsider how it's using its limited resources when reacting to these threats.
Now it's not surprising to see aircraft on all sides of the island every single day. I mean, that used to be a huge deal. They've succeeded in altering the status quo. The median line has been erased. They have a near permanent naval presence around the island. I do think that at some point, Taiwan does have to choose because of the budgetary limitations. Okay, are we going to spend our spare part budget on maintaining F-16s that are flying to respond to ADA's incursions, or are we going to spend them for practical training in Hongguang?
Taiwan's largest annual military drills, the Hongguang exercises, are less than 4 months away. And with military hardware already deployed across the country, Taiwan is sticking to its plan and focusing on making sure its soldiers stay alert. Taiwan's rapid response exercises are meant to last until Friday and test how quickly the country can mobilize its military. But with China conducting its own exercises, these drills have become that much more urgent. Eason Chen and Jaime Ocon in Taipei for TaiwanPlus.
As the effect of climate change wreak havoc across the globe, many people are already feeling the devastating consequences. As Jonathan Kaplan reports, Mongolia's traditional way of life for hundreds of generations might not exist much longer.
On the Mongolian steppe, livestock herder Zandan Kramsoren tends to what's left of his flock. A year ago, he had over 700 animals, including horses, cows, goats, and sheep. Then winter came.
Турван болтой мал маань хүрээд бололцоод байдаг байсан. Нодныгийн байгалийн давтшгүй хүчин зүйл их малын хорогдуулсан.
He estimates 60 to 70% of his animals died. None of the horses or cows survive. The long, harsh winter, buried in snow, the grass his animals feed on. They starved and then froze. Zandan Kramsoren's livestock weren't the only ones. Over 7 million animals are thought to have died in last winter's Dzud, one of the worst in recorded history. Mongolians have lived off the land for centuries. Nomadic herding, once Mongolia's predominant occupation, is still practiced by roughly a third of the country's 3.5 million people. But that is rapidly changing. Nearly half of Mongolians now live in its one major city, capital Ulaanbaatar. Every year, more arrive, seeking opportunities of modern life and refuge from an increasingly difficult pastoral existence. And as the climate continues to change, the trend of urbanization is certain to continue.
Compared to other countries, Mongolia is considered very, very vulnerable to climate change effects. Over the last 8 years, Mongolia's average temperature has increased by 2.5 degrees Celsius, so which is at least 3 times than the global average.
The overall warming trend has brought hotter, drier summers and desertification, and longer, snowier winters of mass animal starvation. Past generations of Mongolians relied on a stable climate cycle to survive and prosper. Today, the absence of that stability is upending traditional life for many. How much longer Mongolia's nomadic herders can continue their traditional way of life is anyone's guess. But it is certain that these people will be forced to adapt to survive on a changing planet. Chris Ma and Jonathan Kaplan for TaiwanPlus.
Thank you for watching What's Up Taiwan. You can visit the TaiwanPlus website or follow our social media for more stories from Taiwan and around the world. Finally, we leave you with a stunning view of peach and pear trees in full bloom in Spain. I'm Yvonne Yang. Take care, and I'll see you next time.
For more stories from Taiwan and around the world, follow TaiwanPlus on socials. Pika!